Jean Evans, you're very welcome to the Road Back Home podcast.
Thank you so much. I am delighted to be here.
So, Jean, you call yourself a networking architect.
Mm-hmm.
So we were connected by, shout out to Aideen, Aideen Curtin, Firechild Photography, who connected us. And now I'm in the Ignite business group. And it's not my first time in a business network, but it is my first time to feel like now is the time and that I belong here. But something that I really would love to talk to you about is this kind of like weekly practice of checking in, celebrating wins, and making asks. And the asks are uncomfortable, you know? And the and then there was the other experience I had. So we had Michelle on the podcast last week, and she did the exercise. What are you bringing to the table? What can you offer? And what do you need to receive? And all of those things put me in the water of the question of how I understand these rooms and how I've always experienced these rooms. And so I wanted to talk to you about that in terms of like, my earlier experiences with networking was very much you wear the name badge, you go in there, and then you just feel like shit about yourself for the whole time. Like I always had imposter syndrome and I didn't really know why I was there, what I was selling, didn't believe in what I was selling, maybe didn't have anything concrete to sell. Um, so let me formulate a question here. I think one of the things that has always blocked me around networking is this kind of like transactional nature of it. That
Mm.
you have to be buying and selling at these events, and you have to be. If you're in a network, it's about buying and selling, and if you're not, what are you doing here? If you're not
Mm.
referring, this whole there was one network I was in. There was literally a scorecard for referrals.
Yep.
How many referrals did you bring to the table this week?
Mm. Yeah.
So, and also, this is not a business podcast, it's a recovery podcast, but I thought about the value of what you know as an expert in
Mm.
networking that could apply to, that we could understand as being a life resourcing. Like, how does networking resource us?
Oh my gosh, that is such a deep question. I think, and I have so much information, so bear with me because my brain goes into popcorn mode. So I think in terms of resourcing, what I've learned is one, we're not taught networking is a thing that you can learn. And I think people have this misperception you're either good at networking or you're not. You're able to do it or you're not. In my experience, that is categorically untrue. So the first thing I will always say to people is it is a skill. Now, I went through my corporate life with, I was a queen of imposter syndrome in my corporate life. I was not letting anybody in. I didn't know how to be vulnerable and share and let people in. And when my division in a company was closed down, I was on the back of my third maternity leave. And as I say, it's every woman's dream. I was breastfeeding one child, two toddlers walking around, and they say, we're closing down your department, so you've no money and no job. And you're going, gee, thanks. But what that sent me on was a journey I started working with an SME, and I did that for 2.5 years before saying, do you know what, I'd like to do something myself. And what I had realized after about 3 years out of the corporate space was that doing networking and learning how to network had given me so much more confidence in myself because it had taught me so much about myself. And I started thinking about this a lot. And I thought, like, before people would have seen me, doing presentations, I could go up in an auditorium and do a presentation, and people would say, you're very, very confident. And I'd say, well, I know what I'm talking about. I love the product. I'm good at what I do. That's all cool. But when you're behind the name of a company or an organization, you've got a title and all of that, it's not you. You're a conduit. But the difference when you walk into a room, this was a big difference for me, is that networking is nuanced. It's how you show up. And as I say when I'm talking and teaching and speaking on networking, I say you can be the most technically competent person in the room, but if you don't know who you are as a human being, when you cross the threshold to walk into that room, you can emotionally and psychologically fall apart because it's not about your technical ability in that moment. So for me, I went out at networking and I was appalling at it. So everything I talk about now is on the back of all of the mistakes that I saw myself making, but I watched and I learned and I kept at it. And my confidence grew, my self awareness grew. And there's a lot of other things that sort of meandered in that sort of journey. But I just thought, you know what? I was networking across 8 or 9 different groups. Some of the groups that you've mentioned there or alluded to, I was watching, and I was in some all female groups, and I was watching these competent women. And what I have is a very, very, very strong radar for talent and the opportunity I see within people. They mightn't see, and I see things. I'm sort of going, if you nudge this along, or move this, or got connected here, or opened the door here, had a conversation, I see something that you mightn't see. And I've learned to trust myself. But I was watching some of these women in some of these groups, and they literally were shaking. And I'm going, but you've got this career behind you, you've done all of this. But then the idea of them having to talk about their business for 30 seconds or whatever it was, they were literally shaking. And it really got me thinking. And it was years, like I had no inkling of setting up a business to talk and teach about networking. I mean, who does that? It's not a thing. But I kept at it. And when I came out of working with my partner, I was going, what am I going to do now? And it was just this epiphany. And I'm going, I don't know what this looks like, but I would like to teach people how to network. Because, like, as I say to people when they say, oh, I don't have time to network, I'm going, tell me I don't have time to network is an excuse for I'm scared, paralytic about networking and showing up and going into a room and talking to people and having to make small talk. And it's all of the crisis and tornado and chitter chatter that goes on. But I kept at it, kept at it, kept at it. And I was watching and learning. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to start blogging on it. I'm going to start podcasting on it. I know that my confidence has grown. And I know that if I can do it, because I used to be pathologically shy at school. I mean, I was Casper. I did not exist. I discovered I'm an introvert about 5 years ago. When people sort of say, "Well, I've got young kids, I can't network," and I've got 3 young kids. Yes, I've been going on a cancer journey for the last 2.5 years. I still networked every single day because networking can be sending a WhatsApp message, say, "Hey, I'm thinking about you." People um, overextend what they think networking should be. So yes, it can be going to the meetings, but it can also be, hey, I'm thinking of you on WhatsApp. So for me, it was like, if I could learn how to network, I thought I am such an unnatural networker. It's not my natural default. But if I can learn it and understand how to win, I can teach other people this, because I also realized, and I suppose it's the wisdom of age in a sense, that I have an ability to articulate emotions and what's going on and put words on what people are feeling. And what I learned then over time through teaching it and talking about it, that I was giving permission to other people to try it and extend and reach out. And why, I wasn't sure at the time, at the time, I suppose when I started, there was the imposter syndrome. Who am I to be doing this? But the other side, I was getting all of these DMs in particular, and it didn't matter how low or how far up the ladder people were. I would get all of these DMs into LinkedIn or whatever going, I never would have had the courage to do this. Or thank you, I've gone to my first networking meeting. I never would have done this until you gave me the push, or the, reframing and, having a different lens on it. Because I think a lot of people think you need to be a social butterfly, you have to be an extrovert. And I'm going, absolutely not. To be the social butterfly going into a room, I would rather cut my right arm off. But I'm also of an age, I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. We have introverts and we have extroverts. You've got ambiverts that go somewhere in the middle. But somebody like me, who is an introvert, had to grow up working in an extroverted world, because I was working in tourism and business tourism. But the world of work is made for extroverts. It's not made for introverts. So that's where introverts really, really struggle, even though they're 50% more or less of the world. What introverts learn to do is, because they start mimicking, and they become what are called situational extroverts. So the
Mm,
appearance is they can do all of this. And I'm going, yes, I can. And I know why people will think, oh, no, you're definitely not an introvert. They don't
mm,
see the exhaustion afterwards. And then if I
mm,
said I'm exhausted, I'd have this discussion with my other half. If I'm exhausted, oh, well, then why are you doing it? You mustn't like it. And I'm going, no, I love it. I love finding out about people. I love getting curious. I love seeing how I can match make. I feel like, as I say, like I feel like the Tinder for business. I love seeing who's doing what, like how can I help you, how can I make worlds collide that never would have collided had I not said you need to talk to you. And I get such a buzz from it. But I get a buzz from, I've three businesses, and the common thread for me is the fundamental thing of growing confidence, because if you do not grow your confidence, you cannot tap into your potential, because it's all about understanding what it takes to grow your confidence. And a lot of that is, and you know full well, is understanding who you are and how do you show up unapologetically. So for me, it's the teaching the network, it's then the business to business network that I set up. And then I have another business that works on the equity piece for women navigating the corporate landscape. And that bit includes a lot of networking, and the I suppose through the modules of the training that we do and the coaching that we do in that business, networking and personal branding, the professional branding and that impact piece really comes to the fore as some of the hottest topics. Because when people start realizing how important it is, and to articulate your impact and to do so without feeling ashamed or embarrassed, you start stepping into your own power. And when I see people changing and realizing I can negotiate, I can say what I want, I can ask people and tell people what I want. One, there's a liberation and a freedom that comes with that. But then it's also going, that quiet fire that was inside me, it is time to let it roar. And when people understand the impact of networking, this brings it back down to, for me, how powerful it is. And I know a lot of people, when you talk about networking, they start glazing over, or they go down the road of, oh, I'm too busy, or I'm too this, I'm going, it's
Yeah.
BS. And I say, you don't have time not to do it, because if I told you all of the wins that you're going to get out of it, you can stay small or you can realize your ambition and, fire that ambition. And you will do that through networking, because the skills that it gives you around communication, collaboration, growing your confidence, your self awareness, your self leadership, your emotional intelligence, all of those, what I call power skills, these are all the things you need to move forward in business or in life. So when you talk about networking and bring it back down to, this is obviously the longest answer ever, but when you bring it back round to contextualizing what does networking do for you, it makes you a stronger, resilient, more adaptable, more nimble human. And when you can cope in everything you're doing in business and career, this absolutely impacts on how you live your life. Absolutely, 100%. And you never know when you're going to need help. Like, we talk
Yeah.
about the road to recovery. Like, I got the diagnosis of cancer 2.5 years ago. If I had got that 3 or 4 years ago, 4 years ago even, I would have had such a lonely journey, because I didn't have a community and network built up around me. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have known how to engage with other people. But when I got it, and I'm not recommending getting it, like it's a horrible journey, I wouldn't wish it on anybody. But when I did get it, I had the most amazing community that rallied around with me. Before I went into business with my business partner for Advancia, she would get up at ungodly hours to get me into Vincent's for my chemo, and she would drive me in and do that, and then drive all the way back to Glenee in Wicklow and whatever, so it was a bit of a trek.
Mm,
But
mm,
with that sort of friendship and the amount of letters and little gifts in the post and stuff like that, and even Brian was going like, oh my God. And I was like, oh my God, with people coming out of the woodwork. But again, it's networking it's community, it's confidence, it's all of that. I'm going, we need people to have this in spades, because to me, and it's all the work you do as well, Amanda. It's like, if we don't understand who we are, really, truly who we are, and step into that. And my big word for that is, who are you when you're unapologetic, going, this is me. When you don't know, you are running somebody else's race.
mm.
They are setting the timber, they are setting the tone, they are setting the speed. You're running somebody else's race. And for me, so not just for business, for career, for life, networking gives you such a colossal skill set. People go, it's so far beyond the transaction. And it's funny that you brought the word transaction in, because I do my little video tips on a Tuesday, and I did one last week that is programmed, and it's actually on the notion of transaction, because so many people go into networks going, you're not my client, you're my client. No, I don't think you're my client. You can't do anything for me. I gave something to you, but you didn't give something to me. No, that's not how it works. It is not how it works at all. It's not how it works in my world, which is why when I set up my network, I wanted it to be a destination for curious, heart-centered people who are business owners who wanted to come together. And yes, it's about business and getting business, but it's the journey of what it takes to get business and teach each other about each other. And for me, it was very important that it wasn't just 30 seconds of time. Hey, my name is Amanda, and this is what I do. And then we don't hear from you again. I wanted people's voice in the room. I wanted to facilitate a conversation that comes a little bit of therapy, a little bit of masterminding, a little bit of the business. But what we learn is how we all tick. How can we support each other, and our why? And that's really important to me.
Mm.
That's the longest answer ever.
It's given me loads. No, it's a great answer because it's so infused with your own personal experience as well, and then your experience of networking, personally and professionally. Um, just to reflect back, let's say something that you said there, it's something you can learn. It's a skill.
Mm.
I'll tell you where being afraid of networking got me, will I?
Yeah, do.
Even though also it's something that has kind of revealed itself to me as like I have been doing it all along, but I had a very, I think, narrow definition. It was a transactional definition. So something I've always been good at all my life is connecting with people, across like having pen pals, friends, everything. I've always, been able to spot my people and, um, have lovely personal connections, whether there is a business transaction. Um, and that's where it has worked for me. But I never saw that as
Mm.
networking. But then when I went into a quote unquote networking space and it became transactional, that's when I would freeze up.
Mm.
And and then also I had the story that I was bad at it, and I probably had some experiences that I was in the wrong spaces or in the wrong rooms. And as you said, you don't know who you are. So I do know that me of 15 years ago, I'm remembering the network that I was in. And I was also very much an imposter. Like the very first day I went to college and we were, going around the room introducing ourselves. And this is my first day of a 4-year degree in counseling and psychotherapy. And all that was going through my mind was I was like the Wizard of Oz kind of a thing. I was like, don't look behind the curtain. Don't look behind the curtain. I hope no, that kind of like I
Mm.
hope I hope I'm not exposed here because what's a person like me doing? Who do I think I am? I am so fucked up. Like, if they even knew, I've no business being a psychotherapist. So it's almost like that imposter syndrome, learning how to be in the room and learning who you are. And then again, I'm trying to bring it to a wider understanding of where other people might experience this. Where so over here, I have all these great connections going on. Lovely. I have several people in my life have always said to me, God, you know the best people. Like you always know great people. And but because I wasn't doing transactions, it wasn't required. It didn't seem like that was it. But the minute I went into the networking format, I started to fall apart and also not understand my value. And that fear of being exposed led me to, alongside a narrative that had kind of like fallen susceptible to, this kind of like self-made narrative, you know,
Mhm.
um, the one woman wolf pack. And I burnt out at the end of 2023. I absolutely collapsed. I was trying to do everything on my own. And I
Yeah.
also, the wounding also that is beneath this is the fear of being indebted. The fear. And in recovery, they say recovery is about learning to love and be loved.
Mhm.
And you said let people in. It's about learning to let people in, learning to take up space and not have to pay rent for it. Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean? There's so much wounding, I think, maybe gets in the way of us allowing ourselves these beautiful connections in our lives that are not hanging on um, they're not hanging on would you say, an obligation of what are you bringing here?
Isn't there such I think I know exactly what you mean, because even in the first few years, like I suppose what I've realized about myself is that I am probably still slow to ask, even though I promote people asking. And for the first few years, it was all about me giving, and very little of the taking. And even when I was going out in the networking, if I had to describe my wins or what my ask was, sometimes I would just gloss over it. And, it's like going, what are you doing, Jean? Especially going, you're talking about out of both sides of your mouth. But uh, I suppose it was a reticence, and it probably is some way attached. Probably have to do a deeper analysis on this, but it's some way attached to that sense of self worth. But the more I'm doing it, I met somebody this morning and I asked for a bit of advice. I said, I don't need to do it now, but just ponder on it and come back to me and let me know what you think. I'd just love your opinion on it. And it was just flexing that muscle. And the more, and there is a notion of collect knows. And I can't remember the lady who's written the book. I will look it up. But she has a thing where she gets women in particular to collect 10 no's. So go out and ask 10 different people 10 different things that you want. And what you will discover, you will probably think it'll take you an afternoon to do. And what she said is, you will get far more yeses than you realize. So it will take you a lot longer to collect a list of 10 no's than you think. But
Mm,
we fail to ask, and because we're scared of being told no. But I think there's a
yeah.
journey when you start to understand your how valid you are about showing up, when you start to understand growing your confidence, when you start to trust yourself and trust your self-worth in the universe. And I know I'm exactly where I need to be. My journey has been like all of ours, up and down, meandering, and done roller coasters. But I know where I'm supposed to be. I wish, in one sense, that I had met me 30 years ago, but they always say that the teacher arrives when the student is ready. So I obviously wasn't ready too much later in life. But I also know that all the crap that I went through in my life, and there's quite a lot of it, has tempered how I think about things, my lens, also the purpose and the way I can give back to others. But I just wanted to point out one little thing, and it's a slight segue and going back a couple of points. I was at a networking meeting this morning, and for me, back down to the transactional, I'm listening to all of the people talking about what they do, and I'm listening and I'm sort of going, and then somebody else pops into my head. So right again, you should talk to you. So I'm going to connect you to, or I know somebody who could use that service. Let me see how I can connect them in. I came away with I came away with 2 pages of notes. Actually, 2.5 pages of notes. I didn't see anybody else in the meeting. Now, I don't mean this as a brag thing. I think it's more about a point of how to make networking work for you, how to not make it transactional. Nobody else was writing anything. And going,
Yes.
everybody's listening, but really what they're saying is, I'm only here for me. Because if I don't
Yes.
write down what other people want, if I don't write down their ask, I'm never going to be able to help them. If I don't write down if I'm not thinking in a way of activating that help, that help radar, who in my ecosystem could this add value to, who could benefit from meeting this person.
Hmm.
So for me, I've learned, and again, this is a bit of training and learning, it's what I see, and I'm going, you could talk to you. So I'm constantly looking at people going, if you come into my world and I get to learn about you, I will work out how I can help you. May not be today, may not be tomorrow, but something will happen. I go, I know exactly who you need to talk. But I would go, if you don't come into my world, I can't do that. So there was a
Hmm.
guy who said this morning, and he's got business and he's looking for an introduction to a certain group of people. And I said, listen, if you'd like to do a one-to-one, I have some introductions I can make, but I never make introductions without doing a one-to-one, because I need to know who I'm introducing and why and how. Because if I don't know how to describe the person, not just what they do, and that's where a lot of networks for me fall down, because it's all about what the person does. And I'm going, no, it has to be who does the what, and how do they do it, and why do they do it. That's the
Interesting.
bit that people don't see as important. And
Mm,
if you are, to me, and they say like networking is all about the know, like, and trust. But if we don't get the relationship to a point of trust and get it to the point of, this is why I'm introducing you, and going, hey, I'm going to introduce you to Amanda because she's awesome and this, da 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 da. And If I can't write that out, I don't know
Yeah.
enough about you to make a referral that is genuine
Yeah.
and authentic. And it isn't about just making a spurious
Yeah.
connection for the sake of
Yeah.
making a connection. It's making
Yeah.
a connection because I see something. Sometimes I don't always know where it's going to go. I just have a sense that you need to talk and I want to join your worlds. Go forth and
Yes.
conquer. But we have to have that open. So my radar is always open. So I'm always cross-referencing different networks, different groups, and I'm going, how can I help
Hmm.
people? Because that gives me a buzz to. I love to see success. I love to hear of success. I love to promote success. I don't subscribe to this. I don't want them to be more successful for me. I'm going, no, if you are, tell me how you did there because I'd love to learn from you.
Hmm.
No,
Yeah.
and why can't we build people up, men and women? Why can't we?
Mm.
Hey, I'd love to learn more. Can we sit down and have a cup of coffee? I'd like to learn more. But going back to the ask and the self worth, I think we need to get much better at asking. And the more we ask, the more yeses we're going to get. And the more you ask, doesn't matter whether something's a no. Some people will ghost, some people will no. The ghosting bit, I absolutely detest. If you're listening to this, please do not ghost people. If they ask you for something and you can't do it, say you can't do it. Or if you can do it in 3 months, say you can do it in 3 months. Don't ghost. It is one of my huge bugbears in the world. It's like
Mm.
people ghosting. It's like, if you can't do it, be a big boy or girl and say no.
Yeah. 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 I've made I've approached, I've had some experiences. Just as you were talking there, I'm thinking about, I've definitely been ghosted. I mean, who hasn't?
Mm.
And it's hard not to, let that, let the voice,
Yeah,
just
you're a
let
little
it,
offended.
let it
Yeah,
feed your insecurity, because
yeah,
it's a
yeah,
really vulnerable thing. And like as the Brené Brown says, like the definition of vulnerability is, basically taking the risk that your feelings are going to be hurt. That's what
yeah,
vulnerability is, or that your pride's going to be hurt, or something that, it's going to be, you're going to be embarrassed.
yeah.
Um, and so it's really, yeah. So I've been ghosted, but I tell you, I made, and it was with somebody I thought that I did have a relationship with. But you know what? Like this is so, and again, going back to recovery, in recovery, there is, an inventory that we have to take. And
Mm.
during this inventory, it's basically who have I a resentment towards? What did they do? How did it impact me? And then the last one column was basically, and how was that my fault? Right? So basically, like, how did I contribute to this? Like,
Mm.
so I'm here resenting this person. What was my part? And one of the things I've discovered through doing the inventory is that a big part that I play in a lot of these resentments that I end up having, the places I get hurt a lot in places where I am not honest with myself about who I'm really dealing with.
Mm.
I walk into situations and I don't allow myself to to believe what I'm seeing. And I keep
Mm.
petting the dog that bites, right? Now, um, I had an example like this where I suspected I was in a situation with somebody. I had a relationship built with them, and I forced the friendship. I kept showing up. I kept showing up even though I had an intuition and I made several observations. This is a pattern I have that this person is not genuine, that this person is not really smoking the shit she's selling. And this person is telling me things she thinks I want to hear to keep me in the room that I pay money to be in.
Mm.
Right? And so there's this kind of a thing going on. And I know if I was true to myself and listened to myself, I would say, this person is not for me. Like, yeah, maybe they're the most influential person in the room, but they're not for me. But I will court them and pursue them. I'll put myself in that orbit. And then, so this one particular person I'm thinking of, and I had done some I had worked on her team and we had done a few things. And then I made a request of her. One request. And I was like, I'm talking viper came back at me. And it ruined me for a good few years. I was like, I will never ask anyone for anything again. And, until I did my resentments and I was like, oh, I realized that I did that. I did that because I fucking saw it. I saw it a
Mm.
mile away. So this kind of what you're saying is like I need to know the full package. I don't just want to do business with you because there's business on the table. I want to do business with you or even a friendship. I want to be in relationship with you because there's a full package here and not just because you have something I want.
Yeah. And I think that this is a huge thing that, that comes out of networking. And I say it in all of my groups. Like if you have 10 website designers, 10 accountants in a row, said you all bring something different to the table, 10 coaches, whatever it looks like. We all bring something different to the table. We will all suit different clients. We will have different cultures and values and understanding, as a coach and understanding values and how you show up and how you come to the world and how you present yourself is so important to understand what that match looks like, but also to understand what the mismatch. And one of the things I would frequently ask is not only who are your ideal clients, tell us who you don't want to work with, and
Mm.
start with the who do you not want to work with, because one, we will learn an awful lot about how to help you and make the right introductions, but you have to teach us that. But I get people to focus on like, what does not good business look like? Because honestly, one, I absolutely believe there's enough business out there for everybody. If we're thinking that there isn't, we're working off a scarcity mindset.
And that's where I'm coming from. I am afraid, so I will settle for anything because it's the scarcity that there's no place for me, not enough for me. I don't deserve to be at this table. So that is absolutely what's driving me to ignore my instinct about whether it's a room, whether it's a person, or whether it's a room full of people, that these are not the
Yeah,
ones for me.
yeah,
Go on.
yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. And within tied in with that, it's I would always say in terms of the right room, you won't know the right room until you've done a bit. It's a bit like dating. You won't know the person that you want to spend time with until you've gone through quite a few people. And the same thing with networking. It's you have to, I would always say try before you buy. You need to go and visit at different networks. You need to experience it. And there are some that you've alluded to who people think that is what networking is about. I'm going, there's lots of different type of networking. So one of the things I would always say, you need to understand what your network needs to do for you, and different networks will do different things for you. So you need to understand what you want it to do for you. Like, is
Yes,
it goal setting? Is it confidence building? Is it the opportunity to go in for an award or to have the opportunity to speak in public? Like, what do you need the network to do for you? Because you will
yes,
never be able to create like metrics and understand, right, here are my key performance indicators of whether it's successful or not, if you don't understand what you want to do in this at the start. And I think a lot of people, when they go in, they sort of pay the money and it's all about the cost. And I'm going, if you're thinking about the cost at the start, you're going to make the wrong decision. That much I know. You have to think of the bigger picture of what you're going to get out of it and understand what you need out of it to understand whether it's going to be successful. So I always focus the word on investment and understanding how you extract value out of it. But you have to be clear about what you need when you're going into that room. But when you don't have the perfect fit, it's really standing back and saying it's not that networking doesn't work. You're going, that group wasn't a good fit for me where I'm at. And different groups again will have different fit to you based on where you are in life and in business. It's an evolution. It's not a one size, this is your forever decision. There's no such thing as a forever decision, but it's about finding like-minded people. So even with Ignite, like, I had a particular view of how I wanted to design it and who I wanted to attract in. Has it grown slower than I wanted? Yes, and that's a lot on me because of all the health crap, but the right people are in it.
yeah.
I 100% believe that, because the feedback I get from individuals and snippets of comments here and comment there, and just
Hmm.
and it's not generally, oh, I got a piece of business. That's not generally, there is that, but that's not where people are coming at in terms of what they're getting. And I love when, as I say, like, whether you know how to network or don't know how to network, if you have an open mind and a curious head on you, and you want to learn how to network, come with me. I will show you how to do it, and bit by bit, you'll increase the
Hmm.
skill. But what I also see within that, and I've seen it across so many people, is the confidence, where they started and then where they end up. And they don't see it. I see it because I'm watching, and I know because I've been on my own journey. So I see this sort of petal, flower blooming in front of me. And
Hmm.
they're doing more, trying more, taking more risks. And I'm going, not, but they're not necessarily understanding is their confidence is growing bit by bit. And I'm going, I love that. That's just like go forth and
But
conquer.
are you aware, and I hope this doesn't sound like I'm trying to ask this question in a way that doesn't sound like a patronizing, but are you aware of how impactful it is to, for me, for example, like it is very obvious to me that you take an interest, that you're actually interested
Mm,
in, in me, for example, and like it moved me a lot when I kind of twigged that about you because so much, and again, it's the wounding. It's like, not being seen and then not being worthy of being seen. And I know that one of the things that is like, like I just want for someone to take an interest, like it's instead of, I don't know, there's just this little girl in me that is afraid that people are just rolling their eyes. And so when someone takes an interest, um, it's kind of like, I always wanted that teacher in
mm,
school, that teacher in
mm,
school who actually took an interest. And I never had it. Never had the teacher who took an interest. So I was always the kid who was just like, whatever, just like
mm,
the eye rolling. But this is a gift that you have in terms of like you have that visionary thing where you see someone and then you, as you said, the popcorn brain, like you start to make connections and you start to see their potential and you see their greatness and you
mm,
see, um, and that has such an enormous impact on somebody, let's say, who is showing up and really does want to grow. Um, but once that, like it, and it's happened over time. Let's say I had another experience a few years ago where I was seen in a situation, and it just like lit me up. And it feels a bit weird saying that because it's almost like somebody might say, "Oh God, how needy." I don't say that, "Oh, how needy," because I know that is just a nice experience, and I want to be in that room. And I want to be with those people. So the other thing about recovery is, you kind of like women who are rebuilding their life, they very often have to completely reconfigure their social ecosystem, right?
mhm,
Friendships fall apart, marriages end. Like when you get sober, and I mean like emotionally sober, when you decide to stop crawling on your fucking knees and taking scraps from the world, and get your shit together and stop, whatever the thing you're doing that is self-destructing, it's probably because you feel so unworthy of love and support and witnessing and all those other things. And so like it takes a long time. It takes a lot to turn that around. And what you discover in the process, what I've discovered is that I've surrounded myself with the opposite. I've surrounded myself kind of like with people who are not interested or else are equally wounded and so self-absorbed or operating from their wounds and blah, 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 blah. So, and then you have all these resentments. So once you clear your resentments, another thing then that you do is you get very intentional about your ideals. Like, what do I
mm,
want? So I
mhm,
have this one experience, let's say, where there are some friends that, didn't are the relationships are over. They were long standing friendships and I know the relationships are over. And I was out walking there the other day and I was thinking to myself because I had been doing some work on those particular resentments. And I was asking myself the question like, what would I do now if I came across the like because I'm definitely not getting back into relationship with those girls. And I was thinking about like why and what do I really value in friendship and specifically in female friendships? Who do my women need to be now, And they need to be kind of like what you're seeing. They need to have those qualities of, so I would consider what this kind of like interest you take in people and all, like a trait of generosity, right? This kind of like generosity.
mhm,
But also, we don't know each other that well. And you were able to pull me up on the phone and be like, hold on, I just want to challenge you on something there. And I was just like, thank you. Like, that means so much to have somebody who's not going to let me hide in my little blanket fort. And if you hear something coming out of me that sounds like I might be hiding in my blanket fort, you're going to say that. And like I get emotional now when I think about it. And it's like in terms of ideals, like whether it is business networking or whether it is recovery that we're talking about, the people you allow yourself to be supported by
Mhm.
matters as well. Like just again going back to learning to love and be loved. Like learning to have people in your life, learning what love actually is. Like love isn't what I realized in those toxic relationships from the past. I thought what love was that you felt sorry for me when I felt sorry for me. I thought what love was that you never challenged me. I thought what love was that you never gave me anything hard to deal with or figure out. Like you never held up a mirror. You were just like, yeah, you're right. They're an asshole.
Mm.
And this kind of like running to my rescue. It was very much about, I thought actually, it was actually enabling. And I was
Mm.
surrounded by enablers.
Yeah.
And you don't grow,
I
you
think
know?
there's a huge part, and again, back down to what networking does for you. I would often say, whether it's career or business, there's different people outside of, people helping refer business in. We all need mentors. We all need coaches. When I came out of the corporate world and I started networking, I was seeing all these coaches, and there's coaches for everything. And I was going, what is this industry? Every second person was a coach. And had never even heard of the industry. And I've since retrained myself as a coach. And I think it's a mind opening experience just to go through the training and what you learn about yourself as well. So I just love it. But in terms of the interest in people, that's why I sort of say, like, I'll put out my WhatsApp group, my Calendly link, and say, hey, if you want to book in for one to one, and I'm genuine from I want to get to know people, but I said, come into my world. I want to know nice people. I want to know good business owners. I want to know people who have a struggle over here, and I can give them some of my knowledge and experience to help them go on their journey. And it's a bit like, I won't say I'm not an empath or anything like that. That is absolutely not. I don't even know how I would describe what I am. I think there's a thing called a HSP, which is a highly sensitive person, and that's only sort of a new acronym that I came across recently. And I'm definitely a highly sensitive person, and I always have been. I just didn't necessarily have the language on it, if you know what I mean. So when I read it, I was going, "Oh, that is so me." But when people, like, even when I was back in corporate managing people, I had a very, very large team. And I would know, like, I would say to them at the time, if your eyebrow moves slightly, or there's a tiny drop here, or something happens with your shoulder, your tone of voice, I hear and see everything. It's like a temperature check and a litmus check. And I can see people before they even see what's going on. So if somebody says to me, I can see if the confidence and their body goes in, or if there's a reaction, or the language, or the apologizing, or the not asking, and I can just see what's going on. Even if there's this whole facade, guarantee if I knocked on that, it would just crack and fall. But what I want to say to people, I suppose, when people get to know me, because obviously it'd be a bit weird if otherwise, but people within my network, I'm there to help them. I'm there to, if I can do something or say something that helps them, I want to be able to do that. Because you mentioned Brené Brown earlier. She would also say, and I'm paraphrasing here, is that none of us are able to resolve anything by ourselves. We are the sum total of other people. We need people to soundboard with. We need people to troubleshoot. But then you have to be careful. Who are the people that are in your room, and do they serve you? And this comes into what you were talking about. Who are the people in your room? And if we are the sum total of the 5 closest people to you, then you have to go, who are those people? Are they going in the right direction? Are they going in the same direction as me? Are they aligned? Or do they need to drop off? Because they say people are in our lives for a reason, a season, or for life. And we don't ever know what that looks like until life has happened. But it's very, very true when you think about it. People can dip in and out of your life. People can be there for a chapter in your life. People can be there for all of your life. And we don't know. But the thing is, you have to let people in. And I think there's such a, one of the things that really struck me very early on when I started networking I worked in tourism, I worked in business tourism. I knew a lot of people within the industry and I was well connected, well networked. But when I went outside, I was looking at all of these people going, oh, look at all these people that do all these amazing things going, I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't know that could be a business. I didn't know you could make money out of that. Who knew? So then my network became really eclectic.
The funny thing is, like, having again in recovery, we have a thing called your God Squad, and so these are the people that you can call when you are forgetting, when you forget
Mm.
that you don't know everything and that you can't do everything, and these are the people that you can call that will remind you of these things, and the other thing about, and it's a theme, it's not just um like in a professional sense, but there was this, definitely I've had this thought. I was trying to be successful first before I
Mm.
would go, go into a network. You know what I mean? It was like I had to, so this kind of vulnerability of not having created quote unquote success, not being impressive enough to be in the room, and like l- letting people like see you in your infancy. Go on,
Can
go on.
I answer that, because I come across this so much. People are waiting for perfection. They're waiting to have the business card. They're waiting to have the brand. They're waiting to have the products. They're
Yeah.
waiting. And what I would say directly to that, if you have an idea, go out and start networking, because people's questions will help you short circuit answers that will save you so much time, energy, and money, because they will view what you're doing differently. And there's a few things that I've learned, well, a lot of things that I've learned about networking, but here's one thing: when you go to market with a product, other people will see other ideas for your business that you can't see, because you see this and they see this, and they can bring that objectivity, that have you thought about this, have you thought about that, will you connect with this person, that can make you an awful lot of money. But when you're starting your journey and you don't know what you don't know, and especially if you're coming from one world and you say, right, I've got all of this expertise, but now I want to set up business, you don't have the experience in setting up a business. And if you come from corporate like I had, where there are different people to do all of the different functions, and then you set up a business and now you are all of those people, well, you need an awful lot of advice, I can tell you that. So you need to surround yourself with people who've done this, have been along that journey. They can be mentors, they can be sponsors, they can be coaches, they can open doors, they can, help you talk to people that might validate your idea. So it is an unbelievably critical time to go, do you know what? I don't know, but I have an idea. I'm going to go out and start networking, because the not only the joy and community you will build, but the responses, the information, the questions will teach you so much about you, about your idea. They will also, if you're smart about it, and what I always say to my members, like, write down the questions people ask you about your business, because that is your marketing. There's a blog in there, there's a social post, there's something. It's FAQs on your website. All of the questions people ask you, if you catalog them and write down your answers, you can get really smart about how you do your marketing very, very quickly. But going in the infancy will save you so much time, energy, and money. And when we're not doing that, it's stepping into that. I can't be seen to not be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And that's bullshit. You and I know
Yes.
that. We're long enough in the tooth. It's bullshit. One, there's no such thing as it. But if you want it to be more perfect and you want to get there quicker, better, faster, and save, and not go down this route when somebody else sees you can do it this way and do a small hop to get to the same place, why would you not take that when somebody else knows more than you and further along in the journey than you? I think it's gold if you build those relationships up.
Yes. There is, and I think it is that vulnerability piece. It's like I cannot, and there's a projection as well happening. Like I had something the other day where I saw something online, and I happened to know something about it in real life, and I was like, it's so, that is so not the, and we know this. We know that what we're seeing online is not a representation of the truth. It's the highlight reel. And
Mm.
and then there, and which kind of casts it's almost like we're as sick as our secrets. And so like I can't, and it's really important to me as a practitioner,
Mm-hmm.
um, to bring the human to the table, and for my clients to see my humanity and to know that the only reason I'm good at what I do is because I was so fucking bad at it.
Mm-hmm.
And and that that it doesn't come naturally to me. And it's something I have to choose. Like recovery is something I have to choose every single day. I didn't just wake up one morning and be like, I think I'm going to sober up now. And
Mm,
then I was grand. It's just like this
mm,
walking the walk every day, and that humanity is important. And I don't do the professional distance or veneer or anything like that. It's like I am in the trenches. This is not you know, me preaching something that I have no lived experience of.
yeah.
Um, and I only realized after last week's podcast when I was talking to Michelle, where she kind of challenged me on something as well, where she was like, "Why wouldn't you?" She said something like, "Why would you?" Not allow people to see your vulnerability. And I immediately had a knee-jerk reaction because I was like, oh, you obviously don't know me. I'm literally all about that. But I said to her, rather than knock your challenge, let me just think about that for a second. And I realized that I don't think I'm bringing that to the professional rooms. I don't
Hmm.
think do you know what I mean? So it's not, I fully embrace it as a practitioner with my audience, with my clients, with my whatever. But
Hmm.
in terms of my peers, my professional peers, I feel like I need to be more polished. And bringing my humanity into those rooms somehow still feels in my body like the kid showing up at the adult table.
Hmm. Totally get that. And I think every business owner, if they were honest, feels like that. I think that
Really? Do you think?
yeah, I think more so. And I tell you what, I did a lot of networking for a very sort of large um, group. Did a lot over COVID with them, all very very high. Had directors, CEOs, C-suite, and what have you. And it was a massive aha moment for me when I realized that they are as scared of networking in this particular instance as anybody else. And the imposter syndrome that they were feeling was heightened because, well, if I've got this far in my career, people are going to think I should already know this stuff. And
Mm,
I challenge it. And the way I deal with that, I'm going, you did not know how to drive a car until you learned how to drive a car.
mm-hmm,
You did not know how to do a 3 point turn until you did a 40 point turn the first time and you drove into a flower pot and you went over a curb, but you kept at it and then you learned how to do it and you did your test and you passed, you got your driving test. Networking is exactly the same. It's flexing that muscle. But people think, and that's why I say it's a skill. You have to learn how to do it for you because your journey, as in life, your journey into networking is your journey. It's not my journey. And that's where understanding, that's why I always do my presentation. I have a very good a common theme, like I'll work on here's some tips, but here's the why. And here's why it matters that you understand what it's going to do for you because it is so powerful. It is all about, like, networking is probably the wrong word for it because it's got very much got that context of going into a room, passing out business cards, the transaction, the false
yeah.
conversations, the yada yada yada, and I'm going, it can be for the uninitiated, but that's what I want to challenge in terms of why people should do it, how they should do it, how they learn to show up. But I want to show people here's what you're going to do and here's how you're going to win. But in those C-suite environments, these people were thinking, I'm supposed to already know this, or I think people will think that I'm already supposed to know this. And I would go, why? If you have never spent time learning about it, why would you know it? So give yourself a break. And if you want to learn it, give yourself permission to learn it, and that's okay. But
Mm,
it's the same thing, and that was like at the upper echelon, and that's why I would sort of say that I think there are more people who are fucked up than not. They just hide it because there's a fear if I show a chink in the armor or I show a bit of vulnerability that I'm not going to get the business or I'm not going to do this or I'm not going to achieve that. I'm going, no, do you know what? I think we all need to get to a stage going, this is me, bells and whistles, take me or leave me. That's
yeah.
okay. If I'm not for you, that's good. Because, and I think I was listening to it, it's a complete segue, but I was listening to a podcast a few years ago, and this marketeer was talking about have this huge email list, it was American, huge email list, and she pivoted the business and she started talking about something else that loads of her email list um, fell off and they unsubscribed. And I was like, oh my God, I'd be having a heart attack. But she sort of said, now I have my right clients. They were
Yes.
my right clients. Now I have my right clients on, oh,
That's happened to me.
get it. and was really powerful. But it's the same thing when you're in the right room, professionally, not professionally, with clients or with your peers, you showing up as you, the people who get you, one, you will give them permission to show up, to uncover a little chink in the armor, because we all have it, and everybody has a wobble day, wobble week, a wobble month. But you will show the courage, and that is contagious. But you will also attract some people and repel others. But the people you repel are the ones that you don't want in your world anyway. So why would
Yeah.
you be afraid of repelling them? Because you're getting a level of toxicity out, or the people who are an energy sucker, a time sucker, whatever it is, out of your world, and you're creating more space. And you know as well as I know that the universe, we put out energy, we put out a certain vibration, and what we're saying to the universe is going, this is what I want to attract back. So if I defeat my self-worth and undermine my self-esteem, and I don't work on my confidence, I'm saying to the world, that's what I want to attract back. If I hang around with people that don't serve me, that's what I'm going to attract more of. If I feel I'm in debt here, that's what I'm going to attract more of. So it's going, actually, we need to turn all of that around, going, attracting wealth, and whatever that looks like. It may be money, it may be time, it may be relationships. We want to attract good stuff, attract right clients. And that is work, and that is work that we have to do all of the time. It's not a once and done, or one vision board and it's done and that's going to happen. It takes work to, be focused and be intentional. But what we put out, like I would do a bit of vision boarding sometimes, and what I always say to people, what you put out, put a sentence out, put a thought out, and at the other end of it, if you think of it like two magnets, here's the universe saying, your wish is my command. And if you finish every sentence or every thought with, your wish is my command, I guarantee a quick smart, you'll start making different thoughts that you're putting out there, because I want good things. Your wish is my command. I want more business and these type of clients. Your wish is my command. I want to have wealth. I want to have the pension. Your wish is my command. It's the positivity, it's growth, it's creating that positive vibration. But if we go into negative mode, and we are all wired, and you know this full well, that we are all wired to be negative Nellies. So it's go into the fight, flight, fear, freeze mode. But it's the quicker and more we understand how to get ourselves out of that and go into positive growth, energy centered. And that is a huge thing as well that networking does for you, because when you go into the right rooms, no matter how you feel, whether you're in the doldrums, you're feeling shit of a day, whatever is going on, you've had an argument with the other half, the children, whatever is going on, when you go into the right rooms, you will feel better afterwards. And it's a bit like my coach in the gym will say, you'll never regret going to do a session, but you will regret not doing the session.
Yeah. Oh gosh, there's so much to think about here. And for the listener who's like, oh, well, this doesn't apply to me because I'm not in business. I think about it even beyond that, in terms of like, who are the people in your life? We're surrounded by people with the only reason being is because, we went to school together, or our husbands are married, or blah blah blah. And you're not getting from those relationships the actual, like, being seen, and being kind of like, if that's what you want, being seen and being kind of like almost teased out of yourself, and in recovery as well, like having people around that are looking out for your higher good in spite of you.
Yeah.
Do you know that kind of a way?
Yeah, no, I'm going to say there's 2 points to that. I suppose, like, and I bring the personal element into it when I'm talking about networking, because it is so far beyond just business. And one is life, because business isn't happening unless life is happening, and business isn't working well until life is working well. And they're all absolutely intertwined. So, to the road of recovery, I didn't have cancer on a Sunday, and I did on a Monday. My network that pulled around me wasn't there for business, because I was in the shits, and I was in a really, really dark place, and I was very, very sick. That was life happening to me, and life is going to happen to every single one of us. We just don't know when it's going to happen. It's when it's going to happen, not an if it's going to happen. And if you don't have that community and that network built up around you, who do you call on for help when you need help? So that's one side of things. Life will happen to every single one of us, every one of us. But the other side is from a career perspective. We do, like Dawn and myself and one of our businesses, we do an awful lot of work with women who are navigating the corporate landscape. And I think I mentioned that earlier. And a huge part of what we talk about is the networking, because women tend to think that if I work really, really hard and I keep my head down and I put more hours in and I say yes to all of the projects, I'm going to get the promotion.
Yes.
And that is not how it works. That is not
Yes.
how it works. What happens there is burnout. What happens there is somebody's in the company who is networking, they're 2 years in the company, but you've been 5 years in the company, or you're working your arse off, you're burning out, you're burning midnight oil, you're sacrificing your family, your kids, your partner, your relationships, because you think this is the route. And I'm going, it is not, because it is not. But the person who knows people, who has let people in, who has made connections, who's built community, who has shown up, who has made themselves visible, who understands how to articulate their impact, they are the one who gets the promotion, because they know people who know people, and those people know about them. And that cycle of networking. And so when we're talking about, when we're doing the training in Advancia, the whole point is it's around feedback, it's around negotiation skills, it's around permission, networking, professional brand, boundaries, status, power, a lot of things that you've mentioned here today. And it's all a self-leadership journey, because it's very much, you can't get into leadership without going through self-leadership. So for me, but the networking bit is huge for women, because men typically do it far more naturally because they've always done it. And you look at it from the playground. And I had a recent experience, like I dropped one of my one of my sons, I only have one son, but I dropped my son to school. He went into the playground and I was watching all the boys, and they're all out there, and they're never ever going to articulate or see what I see, but I'm going, there's the jostle, there's the hustle, there's the conflict, we're playing, the banter, the community, the friendship, all of those things happening. They are just building that community bit by bit, day in, day out. And the girls are on the phone doing their thing, whatever they're doing. They could be out playing football, they're not, they're doing whatever they're doing. But my youngest then is having a joint party very Sunday, actually, as it happens. And when we were talking about whether there would be the boys and girls in the class at the party, some of the mums came back and said, oh, the boys are a bit difficult. And I said, right. And in my head, I was going, nope. I said, like, obviously it's democracy and there are 6 mums making the decision. I said, my decision is that it's everybody in the class, because they're going to a mixed school. And
the boys in the playground, and the boys are difficult.
Well, this is when it came to my daughter's thing. Yeah, the parents were sort of saying, well, boys are difficult. And I'm, they're 7 and 8. And I was going, is that a good reason? And, behind it, then I was sort of saying, so what you're really saying and what you're not understanding the impact. And it's not that the parents are being malicious. They're trying to do the right thing. They're trying to make the right decision. They're trying to do their best by all of the kids. But for me, having gone through the corporate environment and doing all the stuff that I do and hearing the conversations around self-limiting beliefs and lack of confidence, particularly in women, I'm going, this is where it's starting, because now what they're being told, not what the kids are being told, but what they're subliminally being told is, don't challenge, don't manage conflict, don't get feedback, don't negotiate, don't step into your power, and don't demand to be seen. And how that then tracks forward is, if you look at some of the statistics, and it tends to be that a lot of the statistics are American, but women leave between $1 million and $1.5 million on the table through the course of their lifetime, which is because they don't negotiate, they ask for less money than the man, they don't feel they deserve as much, and it's all tied to confidence and self-worth and understanding they have permission to negotiate. So part of the training we do is around negotiation and reframing the conversation around, how do you negotiate your salary? What does that look like in terms of your remuneration package? And that looks different. But the thing is, if you earn 5 grand less for your first job, and then that compounds forward, and then that has an impact on your pension or holidays or any other thing you need throughout your life, depending on how it's happening. And for women in particular, it's important because we don't, men tend to have quite linear careers, women have really squiggly careers. But if they're not
Mm,
negotiating, not only is it squiggly, they're being penalized all of the time, but there, you then mesh that together with the lack of courage and conviction and confidence to ask for more, to realize you've got permission to ask for more, and to understand the worst somebody can say is no. But if you've got your business case together and you're confident about what you're bringing to the table, and you understand your impact and your professional brand and your network, all of these things feed into your career. And I think I started, our conversation around talking about confidence being the underlying, like it's the bedrock to everything. And I was listening to another podcast, and I cannot remember which one it is right now. I'm going to blame menopause on everything. But confidence is a great persuader. And I went, ooh, I love
mm,
that. I was just
mm.
like going, that is it. Because I
That
talk
is
about
true.
confidence all the time, but confidence is a great persuader. And if
Mm,
you're confident in you, what you bring to the table,
mm,
and understanding that what I bring, like there's loads of other people who talk about networking, but they don't talk about it the way I do.
mm. And
They
it's ju-
don't talk about,
and like networking, confidence is also a skill, and it can also be learned, and it must be learned.
100%. I have a
Yeah.
whole slide on
Yes.
that where I literally
Yeah.
go,
Yeah.
and to say to people, like whether it's networking or it's confidence, like if you're in chapter one and you're starting, you start in chapter one. Don't look at the person at chapter 10 and think, I need to be there tomorrow. It's
Mm,
not going to happen. But the person in chapter 10 is to realize, slow down, give yourself permission to learn and fail and
mm,
learn. And, and failure is like, as I say, you either win or you learn. And again, it's how you reframe things. And it's not
mm.
looking, Bob Proctor would sort of say, you're only a failure if you stop. But if you're not stopping and you keep going, you're just going to learn and get stronger and quicker and better. But don't look at the person in chapter 10, oh, I'm supposed to be like them. No, they didn't get to chapter
Yes.
10 before
Yeah.
going through 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it's to actually slow it down. And when you slow it down and give yourself permission, and to understand that confidence, it's courage plus action. We all have courage. We can dive into that courage because we all have it in there. It's diving, tapping into it, taking the action. And that is the equation that makes confidence. So we can all grow it. And to your point,
Mm,
it is a skill. It is not people, we didn't, and none of us came out of the womb being confident and articulate and being
yeah.
able to do all of these things. It's all learned.
Mm,
And then back down to the people we're surrounded by. Who are we surrounding ourselves? Do those people service and where we want to go
mm,
in terms of our
mm.
future?
W- Something that I really want to drive home from personal experience and from what you've said, and this is, true. Like it's not just theory. Whether it is business or whether it is recovery, you're not going to get there. Clean out your ears and listen to this. You are not going to get there on pure will and effort alone. We
Mm.
need to do away with this idea that it is literally bulletproof work ethic that gets you anywhere. Yes, have a great work ethic, that is great, but
Mm-hmm.
doing this on your own is literally the recipe for burnout, whether it is recovery or anything else. Like it's the curse of Sisyphus. You will never get the boulder up the hill on your own ever. And like it's just so that toxic self-reliance is the thing that we've been sold. And I love it. I love how it is sold to us by fucking billionaires, who tell us, who sell it like as if they got to where they were on their own. No, you didn't.
No. And that's one thing I'm very adamant about. I'm going, look at the people who are successful, look at where you want to get to, and understand and realize that nobody who is succeeding is doing it on their own.
No,
Nobody,
no.
because nobody can do it on their own. We're not supposed to do it on their own. Nobody who is succeeding is doing
Mm,
it by themselves. And I
yeah,
am the product of burnout. I am the product of the
yeah.
person who has, had and has an amazing work ethic. But I've had to
Mm,
recalibrate that because I did the burnout. I had a miscarriage as a
yes.
result. I had my marriage breakdown and all of the aforementioned and divorce and blah, blah, blah. And there's loads of other stories. Like I have a lot of badges of dishonor, I'm going to call them, but they have taught me an awful lot. But the word, especially when I'm talking, whether it's a networking or training,
Credentials. You have the credentials.
well, yeah, it's the lived experience and those credentials. But the word I use, and I look back at it and I'm going, it's nonsense, nonsense.
Yeah.
There's a better way of doing it. And I'm telling you, the better way, it starts with networking because of everything it teaches you about you. And then
Yeah.
you show up and you're unapologetic and you're confident and you're understanding how to articulate your impact and where you are going to thrive, and you will attract other people and people will start talking about you because you're teaching them what you need them to say. And it's all a journey. And but this is why I say to people, networking is not walking into a room just handing out a business card. It is how you show up as a human
Yeah,
being.
it's not
And where
arriving as a finished package. I'm here now. Now I'm only here in the room now to get rich. No, it's
yeah,
not. It's not. You don't, it's not I have arrived. It is, oh, are you going the same direction? Excellent. Can I have a lift?
yeah,
Or do you want a lift?
100%. Or
Or,
listen,
oh,
you've
let's all
done,
get on the fucking bus together.
or you've and again, back down to the person starting, or anybody, you could have a 4 million euro company want to grow to 10, but you've never done so. Go and talk to somebody who has grown something to 10. Say,
Yeah.
how did you get there? Tell me what I should look out for. It's bringing people on the journey, or talking to people who are a couple of steps ahead of you that can share honest, live, oozy information that's going to help you get there quicker, better, faster. Networking is, it's like, it literally is the be all and end
Mm,
all.
yeah.
And that's what I'm
There's
on a
more
mission
to it.
to share,
Yeah.
is that, for people to come out of hiding and to realize they will tap into their potential if they learn this skill. It
Yeah.
is a slow burn, but if you stay with it and trust the process, I guarantee blossom and flourishing is in your future.
Brilliant. Jean, I will have your links in the show notes for people
Thank
to
you.
find you, and you have your website and you're on all the socials and all of that, and I'll link all of that. And thank you so much for being here, and I mean that in the sense more than just the podcast. Thank you for showing up with what you do. And I'm so grateful to that our paths have crossed, and that I'm, no longer a one woman wolf pack, because that sucked.
Yeah. I just want to finish off, to have the last word on this one, is just to say that, Amanda, you are an awesome, heart-centered, beautiful, beautiful person who, I just see your star rising and just getting stronger and stronger, brighter and brighter. So from me to you, I want you to trust yourself and trust all of the energy and everything you bring into the world. And I think this is the other thing, is we're not, and for all business owners, wherever we are in our journey, successful, not starting, scaling, whatever it is, we're not supposed to be for everybody,
Yeah.
but we're supposed to find our people. And the more we're clear about who we are and the way we show up, and we do that with confidence and unapologetically, those people start getting attracted to us, and that gives energy, and things start moving. And
Yeah.
that confidence, as I said, is a great persuader. So I see this star shining, and you're the most beautiful person. So
Oh,
keep
well, thank
shining.
you. Thank you very much, Jane. And yeah, I'll see you tomorrow.
You will indeed.